I was in 5th place, you know, coming into the day, not far out of first, but to be honest, like I didn't really feel like, you know, the technique and pattern that I was fishing was going to be strong enough to catch a mid 20-pound bag, which is what I felt like I probably needed to catch. I needed to have a mid 20-pound bag to have a shot. And so I toyed with the idea of, you know, scrapping, you know, my previous game plans and going to do something different, just in hopes to try to land on something big, you know, to have a big day. But, you know, I looked at the weather, you know, the conditions weren't really suitable for going herring fishing, which is probably what I would have done. I played it a little conservative. You know, that's basically what I did. I just decided to go do the same thing I'd been doing and fish a period like that and see where things were at the end of that period. But it just so happened, man, I caught a 512 in the first period, and there we go. Woo! It just solidified, you know, my game plan from that point forward, and I didn't really have to worry about and be second guessing, man, should I leave this and go do something else to try to catch a big one.
5 pounds, 12 ounces.
That's what we needed, guys. We need a couple more like that. I knew that I had an opportunity to catch a big one doing that at that point, so I was able just to focus on fishing. And my weights got better pretty much every day. It's early April, and fish are pulling up. They're spawning, or they're starting to spawn. We're at the very front stage of the herring spawn and the shad spawn type stuff, and so obviously a lot of people were trying to key on that, because it's a known technique. I mean, guys know that they win tournaments here, and that's how local tournaments get won. You know, 2 years ago we had the pro circuit here. I finished second. Matt Becker won. Both of us fishing the herring spawn. So that was what everybody was going to focus on, and me included. But it just seemed like when I practiced that the first day of practice, I found some fish on some places doing that, but the quality just did not seem to be there for me. And so I didn't really put a whole lot of time into looking for those kind of fish, and so I started doing some different things.
So if Gagliardi does pull it off, will this be considered a win for forward-facing sonar?
Absolutely.
I realized that I caught an offshore bite, but I was fishing off the bank. You know, I was fishing herring points, just moving out a little bit farther, and just being able to pick up random fish. Maybe they're post-spawn fish, maybe they're fish pulling up, or fish waiting on the herring to get there. I don't know for sure, but I was fishing for fish that I think guys were overlooking. They were either going in there on the bank fishing up shallow spawning fish, or they were fishing points up shallow, you know, trying to get those feeding herring fish like on topwater basin, that kind of stuff.
Look how short he is.
I caught everything today on a drop shot, just a quarter ounce drop shot, morning dawn, you know, 6-inch straight tail. I mean, it's just the same setup you see, you know, 78 guys of the 80 when we go somewhere and there's drop shot going on. It wasn't anything special to it. It was more or less where I was doing it. It wasn't so much the bait. Probably could have caught them on some different things, but the drop shot kind of enabled me to, you know, to get the bait down there fast. And so I was Garmin live scoping fish, obviously, when I would see them. So I wanted something that would fall pretty fast, because a lot of these fish were moving, because they're out there, they're feeding, you know, so they're moving. So when you see one, you want to make sure you get a bait out there and get it to the bottom before he has a chance to move either to left or right. I was just doing something that nobody was doing. These fish had they'd just not been messed with, and I think that was the whole key, was just finding something a little bit different.
Big one.
Yeah, man, that 8-pounder, what a game changer. I was paying attention, real close attention to my Garmin perspective also, and I remember specifically on that fish, I noticed on the perspective back on the bottom corner, it was just almost off my screen. It looked like a rock, I guess. And so I turned my trolling motor over and looked with the live scope, and sure enough, I saw the rock. So I made a cast. I actually had to cast almost back behind the boat. And the fish bit and hooked him. I knew it was a good fish when I first hooked it, so it came up to the top. And I honestly thought it was probably a 5.5-pounder.
Come on, girl.
And then he started taking me to school a little bit, and I realized, like, this is a big fish. It's not just a 5-pounder. Sure enough, it comes up by the boat, and it's a giant. Like it's a full-blown giant. Once I got my hands on him, like that was a pretty cool moment, because I knew how important that fish would be. Oh, thank you, Lord. Woo! Didn't know for sure at the time, like, you know, that was a winning fish or anything like that, but man, a fish of that size, and I already had a 512 in the boat to begin with, but a fish of that size is what you have to have.
8 pounds, 0 ounces.
In order to have the type of day that I needed to have a chance to win. It's been a while since I've had a win. I mean, it's been since 2014, so coming up on 10 years, at least I can say that I won one this decade, And I've told people, a lot of people have asked me, how do you feel about the 5 fish versus everything counts? And I've always felt like at the end of the year, like I'll probably make the same amount of money or get the same amount of checks in one versus the other. But I always kind of felt like the 5 fish was easier for me to win. Like I felt like it would be easier for me to win a 5 fish limit tournament versus everything counts. And so I guess I was right in that assumption. But man, just for it to be here.
And Anthony Gagliardi running away on his home lake.
This lake's special to me. I mean, I've won $800,000 here in just 3 events, not counting whatever else I've won, and that's not counting my second place. So I just have a lot of history here, and I don't spend a lot of time on this lake because, you know, the best times of year are now. Most of the time I'm in Alabama or I'm in Tennessee or I'm somewhere else, and so I don't get to spend the amount of time that I would like to. I always feel like I'm behind the 8 ball when it comes to fishing this lake now in this type of event, because I feel like I haven't really put the time in because I just don't really have the opportunity to do that. But to be able to win it here, it's special. Like I said, this lake means a lot to me. And for my first win on Bass Pro Tour, I'm so glad that it was here.